Welcome to the Wonder Boldly podcast, hosted by yours truly, Christine, founder of Drizzle Academy. I am going to encourage and motivate you to take action towards your big goals. I'm going to teach you everything I've learned from building a very successful 25-year career, coaching people, and starting my own online business. I am going to give you so many action items you are going to be able to wonder boldly. So thank you so much, Lauren, for being with us, being with me here today. It has been an honor getting to know you. As I mentioned, Lauren and I met like over a year ago in a Facebook group and been following each other's journeys along. And most recently, so excited, we're going to dive into this today, Lauren. Lauren published a book. She's going to tell us all about it. And I'm going to say it was beginning of July, it was coming out, and I was going on vacation, right? And I said, oh, I'm going to grab it and read it on vacation. And Lauren, so sweet, so nice. She's like, let me make sure I get it to you before your vacation. Talk about what a kind person. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. So anyways, so I got the book, went on vacation. I did start reading it by the campfire. I didn't finish it on vacation, as I know I never do. It's like, oh, I'm going to read all these books, and it just doesn't happen. But since then, have been reading it, have read it. I am going to go back, as she will tell us. One of her suggestions, I'll say, is that to kind of read it through and then come back. And there's so many things about it that I love, so many things. And I feel like you are speaking like my language directly to me. I totally get it. It resonates. It's just like having a conversation with a friend, and the tangibles. That for me, I love that. Like something I can walk away with that specifically said, do this. I'm one of those people, like, I love rules. I love checklists. Okay, we're going to go through the motion. And you've done that so beautifully in this book, and in a way, in the storytelling, in the way that just really pulls you in. So with that said, thank you so much, Lauren, for being with us here today. I'll let you take a few moments to introduce yourself as well. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you for such kind words about me, about my book, which was, a lifelong dream of mine was to be a published author. And that it was just such a dream come true to finally be able to pull all of these thoughts and feelings and lessons, life lessons from my own life together and be able to package them in a way that I really hoped would help the everyday person to just make the decision that this is your life and you're supposed to be happy and you're supposed to be on your own path and you're supposed to deliberately choose how your life unfolds and how you're going to pay attention to it. And so I'm just absolutely thrilled that for every single person that reads those words and is uplifted by them and is helped by them. So thank you so much for having me and amplifying my voice.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I wanted to ask you a little bit about your dedication. For me, that was like part of the thing that drew me in, part of the juiciness of it. And also, I do want to pause and thank you for sharing, because in the book, get the book, guys, get the book. I'll put the links in and all that good stuff. You have to get this book. And in the book, Lauren shares, and thank you so much, sharing some personal stories about herself and her journey. And that's, being vulnerable. And that's really, I truly appreciate that. I think that is an act of kindness, an act of bravery. And it's letting yourself be vulnerable and saying, this was my story. This is what I've learned from it. And I think we learn so much from each other in story. So thank you for that. And so one of the things I don't know why I enjoy people, and I call myself like a people watcher. I don't necessarily need to be in all the conversations, but I love to be on the outskirts. I'm one of those people like watching. And so I'm curious about your dedication to your friend Scott. If you're open to sharing that with us, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. Scott is actually my nephew. I'm the baby of 6, and he was my eldest sister's child, so we're only about 3.5 years apart. So it was more like my little brother growing up, but we worked together several times throughout our lives, and we just really, really good friends. And he's got a great business mind, and so we always talk about business. And like, gosh, Scott, when as I was learning to be a life coach and trying to figure out how this next phase of my life was supposed to go, because this is my heart. This is what I would do even if I won the lottery, but I haven't won the lottery yet. So I'm figuring out I'm
Right.
figuring out a way, right, how to make this my heart and my life and my livelihood. And he's write a book. You need to write a book. Lauren, you really should write a book over and over and over again. And I tried and I tried and I tried and I finally I got it done. And I was so grateful that he never stopped saying that. He never stopped saying, you can do it, you should do it. It's that this is what you're meant for. The universe speaks to us through infinite ways. And
Mhm.
I really feel like, that was the voice of God talking to me and saying, this is the next step on your path. So get it done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for that.
We
And
took a video of him reading that for the first time at a family gathering, and it was really sweet. He's like, all I get is one paragraph in this whole book.
I love it. Right?
Yeah, he's awesome. He's my BFF.
Oh, that is awesome. So tell us a little bit about the path to your becoming a life coach. You're looking at life in this way, not giving away all the good details that are in the book and have read them, but you know, what really was do you feel like now, kind of like, what they say 2020, like hindsight, like some of the things, the struggles and challenges you face, like what do you feel was really something that was a pivotal point for you and you're like, okay, I'm going to move forward in this fashion.
Well, the really low point. Basically, I kind of fell out of love with God and spirit when I was just a in my late teens because of that. That will all be in the next book about all of that. But basically, I spent 3 decades trying to studying the law of attraction, studying positive psychology, and studying mind over matter, and very interested in the way that our minds get things to happen. But I was operating in this little vacuum that was just Lauren, this little body, completely disconnected from the universe. From Even though I was listening to spiritual teachers like Abraham Hicks and all of these amazing teachers that are channeling non-physical energy, but I just kind of set that part aside. I'm like, I don't, I'm just not really even going to think about where these messages come from or what any of that stuff is. I'm just going to create using my mind and my will and my energy. And
Mhm.
you can get some things done like that, some small human things, but but that you're operating at like a tiny, tiny portion of your power when you operate in that way. But that's what I did. So I would succeed. I would get the job that I wanted and get the guy that I wanted, get the whatever it was that I wanted that I thought would make me happy at that time. But then when I had it, I would sabotage. I would self sabotage. I would do something to screw it all up and wind up starting all over again.
Mhm.
Well, finally, and in the midst of all of this, I felt like the one who needed to take care of my mom, to take care of the brother that's closest to me, to take care of to everybody in my life that needed help. I thought it was my responsibility to
Mhm.
create on their behalf and help them get the things they wanted, which, when I say it now, how arrogant, how, who did I think I was that I had a closer connection to the universe than anybody else? But,
Mm.
you see what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah.
the turning point was my brother that I had enabled for so long died of his disease, of his lifestyle. My mother had to be put in a state-run nursing home because nobody had the money to put her anywhere else. So I didn't save my brother. I didn't save my mom. I didn't My sister's house was about to be foreclosed on. I didn't save her. My nephew, that another nephew, I have a lot of them, that I so worried and struggled for was not doing well either. Nobody that I was trying to be the hero for
Mm.
had, I wasn't the hero. I didn't save anybody. All I did was completely deplete myself.
Mm.
And so that was the moment when I started to let some spirit back in. I'm like, you know what? I'm handing all of these people back over to the universe and letting them find their path, understanding that they have their own connection with source energy and with their maker and their own path. And I'm going to set off on my own path. And it was then when I put on my blinders and I pulled out all of the life skills that I knew, and I just diligently put my head down in a very humble place and began to recreate the life that I wanted, that I realized you feel according to, I have a giant cat on my lap if you're
Love it. I wish my audience could see.
I
What's
know.
the cat's name? I love
His name is Romeo.
Romeo.
Yeah. And he's been with me a long time, about 13 years. So I figured out from when a place that I had nothing, I was in a little 250 square foot apartment that I didn't have control of my thermostat. I was packed in here with 5 animals. And I figured out at that place that if I focused on all the things that were wrong, in quotation marks, that were unpleasant, then I felt crappy. But if I made the choice to look around for things to appreciate, then I felt great. And it was like a light bulb went off. It's like happiness is not something you find. Happiness is something that you choose, that you create, that you decide on in each and every moment. And from there, I just grew and grew and grew. But within a year and a half or so, I had manifested this amazing home that's my dream home on the side of a mountain in the middle of nowhere, just living an amazing life, making my own schedule. I sleep when I want, I wake when I want, I work when I want, I play when I want, I go where I want, I do everything I want to do, and I'm having an amazingly successful life. And so I was sitting here in my paradise, just overflowing with this happiness. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to help other people get here
Mm-hmm.
without having to spend 3 decades trying to figure it out. I want to help them figure it out faster and share this. And that's when Be Happy First was born in 2014.
Yeah. Yeah.
That seems kind of long.
2014. So it's been
About 7 years.
about 7 years, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, well, I made that decision, and I got a website, and I created a Facebook page, and I named myself a happiness coach. And then I started recruiting friends and family to be my students and clients. And I quickly figured out that knowing how to do something and knowing how to teach it are not the same thing. So and then as soon as I came to that realization, Mary Morrissey appeared. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So
Mhm.
she had the perfect program for me at that time, which was Life Mastery Institute. So I got certified as a Life Mastery consultant and a Dream Builder coach. And I did one-on-one coaching for a while, and I did some group coaching, and that it's just kind of evolved. I've always been in love with the primal lifestyle, and I think that your relationship with your body is really important. So I went and got certified as a primal health coach so that I could teach that as well. Just finding my way, figuring things
Yeah.
out. And I went to be certified as a meditation teacher because that, I believe, is the most pervasive tool that is works for everyone, that everyone needs it, everyone will benefit from it. That
Yes.
there's not a living soul on this earth that won't benefit from meditation. So I got
Mhm.
certified in that. And then I've just been, exploring this journey. And then I decided that it was finally time to write the book. And we got that done this year. And then the accompanying course will be launched in January of
Nice.
2022. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. 20, I gotta write that down. 2022, January, is that what you said?
January of 2022. I'm trying to figure out the best time exactly everybody's all gung ho about getting their lives together in
Right.
January. So
Right.
I feel like that would be a good time to start it. So that means that it will probably launch in December, so that
Mhm.
everybody can get their books and get all of their stuff together, and the class will actually start around the 1st of January.
Nice.
In the
Yeah,
middle. Yeah.
awesome. So I want to go back to something you were saying in the beginning there, where you were talking about really looking at what you were responsible for and what was your sort of path. And you were saying like you were trying to help your mother and your brother, and you feel like you didn't help them. The outcome wasn't what you were looking for them. And you had to come to a place where you just felt like, okay, I'm going to be responsible for these things, and these things I'm going to give to the universe, whatever. And it reminds me, and you talk about it in the book, and it's one of the exercises of the list, right? Where you put on your list, these are the things the universe is, and I throw that away or do whatever, just forget about it. And they either happen or they aren't necessary, or we find that they're not necessary. Can you dive in a little bit deeper to that? Because I think it ties, for me, when I heard you say that, that's exactly what I was thinking. And would you, maybe you have a different perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And to give credit where credit's due, that is actually from the book Abraham Hicks, Ask and It Is Given. It's called the placemat process. And it's basically a way to d- help you engage all the power of the universe to get the things done in your life that you want to get done, and no longer be the slave of your to-do list, and wake up every single day overwhelmed with all these things that are on your list to do. So you decide what you really want to do today, what you really feel is important, what your heart is leading you to do in this day, and you put that on one side of the page, and then you put all the rest of your list on the other side and say, this the universe is going to take care of. And then you just let it go, and then just watch how things happen. And that's exactly what happens. Is sometimes, oh well, that didn't even need to be done. That
Mm-hmm,
it just falls
mm-hmm,
away,
right.
or someone else is inspired to do it, or some much easier, shorter way of accomplishing the same thing comes along, when you're no longer stressed out and worrying about it, and letting the forces of nature, if you will, work on
Right.
those things without your little human attention.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know and when you can just become a vessel of all of this power and all of this light and all of this positivity, then when someone comes to you and really needs your help, you have resources. You have the energy, you have the emotional energy, you have the money,
Mm-hmm.
you have a full vessel from which to serve and help them. Do you see the different feeling of that, in filling yourself up and being a willing vessel to help other people, than being oh, I must fix this, oh, I must fix that, oh, I must fix you, oh, I got to help you, you're not doing well, I got to fix this for you. You feel the different energy, and
Mm-hmm.
how disempowering that is for those people. you
Yeah.
know it,
Yeah.
we're never ever going to not want to help and not want to serve, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes by doing things for other people, we deprive them of the joy of figuring it out for themselves, and
Right.
the joy of tapping into their own power, and it does them a disservice.
One of my mentors had said to me earlier on in my journey of life coaching, I was really eager. One of my things is, in the name of the podcast, Wonder Boldly, is I want people to feel empowered to take action. Whatever is important for somebody, whatever they're wondering about, Wonder Boldly, take action. And I get really caught up in seeing I'll call it the potential, seeing how there's, just like you say, it's a choice. For people to really realize that you choose everything. You choose your mood for the day. You choose how you're going to go into a meeting, what result you want to have. Like, it's a choice, right? So anyway, I had this one client, and many clients, but it was just this one that was on my mind. And I was talking with my mentor, and I was just like, but I know that they can do XYZ, and I'm pushing and I'm pushing, and I'm like, okay, and we're gonna do this. And, really, like, just overdoing, over pushing. And, my mentor said exactly what you're saying. You're actually doing them a disservice. They haven't committed to that. They're not ready. They're on their own journey. And yes, you might see this potential in them, and for all good reasons, but they're not there yet, and they need to get there on their own path, right?
Right.
And And it's really, I think, for certain people, and I'm just really talking about myself, it can be really challenging in a struggle. Like you talked about wanting to help your mom and your brother, like just like, wanting, to help and not even, I was going to use the phrase people pleaser, but that's not even what I mean. I mean, like just having that drive to like, I can help you.
Mhm,
And then realizing that it's more about letting go.
mhm.
It's more about, giving the guidance, asking the questions and all of that, but more about letting go.
Right. Have you gotten to the chapter in the book yet that talks about never doing anything you don't want to do?
Mhm. Mhm. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. The difference between inspired action and motivated action. And inspired action feels so much better and has such better results. But in order to get to an inspired place, you've got to be willing to get still and listen and
Mhm.
and settle into a place where you're, accepting guidance from the universe, really listening to the people that you aim to help, and being able to understand how you can best be in service of the people that you love. And
Right.
and not the old saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him
Mhm.
for a day, you teach him to fish, you yeah. And so the very best thing you can do for anyone in the entire world is to be happy for your children, for your spouse, for your coworkers, for if you're a source of light, that they, that can't help but shine on them.
And so on that comment, I'm wondering what your guidance would be for somebody. Like, how does somebody do that? So somebody who is, really knee deep in trying to help a family member, a friend, or whatever, a loved one. And how do they really take a step back and, instead of like I was describing that really that push, that really trying to push and push, how does one, take that deep breath, take a step back where they're so fearful in some cases, in some sad situations, right? That if I'm not there helping and doing all the things, maybe a bad outcome will happen or whatever. How does somebody go about doing something like that? Would you recommend?
The first thing is to ask yourself the question: who decides what's a bad outcome? Who decides what that so that this is all about trying to control circumstances that are outside of you, and you never can.
Mhm.
And so the first thing is to just to admit that you are powerless over circumstances, and that's okay. And to admit that it's not up to you to decide what is a good outcome, because there's not the worst tragedy in the world has gifts for someone. And sometimes the only path to that gift is through that tragedy. And so, I'd see a lot of parents doing it. They want to protect their child from everything that could ever go wrong with them. Well, at the same time, they're depriving their children of the chance to learn and grow and figure things out about themselves. And, this is what we do when we overhelp,
Mhm.
and I would say in that situation, that I would say to the person that I was helping, I'm sorry, I made a mistake in thinking that you weren't capable of doing these things for yourself. Please forgive me.
Mhm.
I'm going to trust you to take care of yourself and trust you to ask me if there's a way that I can help, and then
Mhm.
let it go, and let things unfold, and don't be so attached to outcomes.
Mhm.
And I think for parents especially, it's hard because sometimes the outcome could be your child is in a terrible car accident, and how are you supposed to be okay with that? You just got to
Mhm.
find a way.
Right.
More than likely, they're not.
Right. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a really good point, probably for everybody, and that resonates with me in regards to children, is that if we are always in that mindset of controlling and trying to control the outcome, I don't want my child to fall down the stairs and get hurt or, whatever, something like that, you are actually sending a message to them that you don't think they're capable, that you feel like that's they're fragile or can't handle something. And I know for myself in those scenarios too, that's taken years to really understand. And you think as a new parent, you're like, oh my god, I got to do all the things, and then really learning like, oh, wait a minute, this is actually doing a disservice. And I'm giving the impression that I think my child is not capable. So I'm sure, so that really resonates with me in that way, because I have lived that. And I'm sure that, like you're saying, it applies, across the board when you're helping, over helping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive into some of the tactical things a little bit and tell us. So I mentioned the list, you mentioned the meditation, and I loved how you said in there, and I say this often to people who I have, everybody says it, right? You have I'm going to call them the naysayers in a very loving way, but like, I can't meditate because, my mind, I can't quiet my mind. I just can't, and you say in there, it's not about that, right? People think like I have to sit and meditate and totally clear, and thoughts keep coming and I just can't do it. Can you give us some tactical things, talk a little bit more about that? Because my audience knows I'm always like, I did a recent thing, I think back in May, like, let's all meditate, on Instagram, and we're going to meditate for the month of May. And can you give us some guidance there in your expertise on how we can approach meditation in a more open way, I'll say?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so common, and I hear it all the time too. I can't meditate. My mind won't shut up. It's not about that. There's three parts of you. You have your body, you have your mind, and then you have who you really are. That is your soul and your spirit. If you think about this, who is hearing your thoughts when it's just you sitting there and your thoughts are going? Who's the translator? Who is noticing that your mind is going? That's who you really are. So sit quietly and kind of feel yourself as these two separate entities. One is the chattery mind, and the other is the perfectly calm, perfectly unflappable, absolutely unperturbable, divine creature that can see forever in all directions and knows that everything's going to be okay, just observing the chattery mind. And so this thought pops into your mind, the bigger part of you says, I see, that's all right, go on. I see, that's all right, go on. And then every time that you're doing that, every time that you're acknowledging that thought and letting it go and choosing to come back into your silence, you're exercising that muscle, and you're exercising that pause muscle that serves you during the day, because when something goes wrong, instead of having a knee jerk reaction and your heart jumping out of your chest and your cortisol levels rising, you now have the ability to pause and go, wait a minute, this event has no meaning until I assign it meaning. I'm going to choose what my response is. Now, you can go ahead and get mad if you want. You can go ahead and get, whatever you want, but you are choosing your response instead of just reacting and being a victim of circumstances and events that are around. So that's what your meditation is, getting to know the three different parts of you: your body, your mind, your spirit. They're all with you all the time, but who you really are is that calm, still, absolutely perfect, full of love, piece of God.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. I love that. So now I'm all excited. So how about, will you pick a topic? Give us another, if you don't mind, another like topic that you hear maybe a lot about, and maybe some guidance on how my audience and myself, we can, work through that particular item. Like, is there something that you hear a lot about, or your clients ask a lot about?
Hmm. What I see the most is people giving away their power in relationships, and not just intimate relationships, relationships with everybody. They are expecting everyone to behave in a certain way before they can be happy. And you know what this means? It means that you're never going to be happy. And so the list of positive aspects, that's another one from the Ask and It Is Given book, which is one of my favorites. And if you are to make a list of positive aspects about any person in your life that is giving you any sort of drama or trauma, and all you focus on are positive aspects, then your relationship will automatically change. It's relatively effortless, but so powerful that you see what you're looking for. But we fall into these ruts of watching for something to criticize, watching for something to nitpick, watching for something to be negative about. Now, in our defense, we're kind of hardwired to look for the negative because we needed to when we
Mhm.
were evolving on a very dangerous planet. We needed to be on the lookout for predators and ravines to fall in. And, life was dangerous. But life isn't like that anymore. And we are the master of our brains and we can reprogram. So just giving yourself time to check in and go, what am I doing? Am I trying to get the outside, the people, the places, the circumstances to line up so that I can be happy? Or am I just letting things be and choosing what I look at and choosing where I
Mhm.
put my attention and my perspective?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that. Coupled with that, I do have folks on my mind, my audience, some of my audience, and I know that they'll say, I almost thrive in that. I almost thrive in the negative. Like it makes me feel good to, I don't know, I don't watch the news, but watch the news and get something and then have an emotion about it, have a response and say, this is why this is happening. And I get really charged up about that. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. I'm not articulating it well. So let me give you an example. So your person A is on the lookout for something in the news that they disagree with, and they find it. There it is. And then they pontificate about it. Then it's like, oh, and then there's this and there's that. Like, and and for me, because that is not my nature, I'm like, why? For me, I'm just like, why bother? Who cares? Like, let it be. But they enjoy it or they feel like they enjoy it. Do you have experience with that? And like, what would you say to somebody like that? It was like, if I try to say to a friend, say, well, don't think about that, or, who cares? Nothing to do with it. Doesn't affect, it does affect us. You know what I mean? There's that type of mentality.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I have to ask is, why do you need them to not do that? If you do, and because maybe they do enjoy that.
Mhm.
But you also don't have to be around them if you don't enjoy it. So that there's a choice there. If this is a person who, and there are people who love to debate, who love to pick things apart, who love to, and they thrive in that maybe, or maybe that's all they know. Now, the way that you know if they're truly thriving or if that's just how they know is look at the rest of their life. Are they healthy? Is their body in good shape, or are they riddled with autoimmune diseases and stress related diseases and you
Mhm.
know, things like that? How are their relationships?
Mhm.
Do they have loving relationships that are intimate and communicative and loving and sharing? Or does this need to argue and be right proliferate every part of their life?
Mhm. Lauren, that's so insightful. I love that. I love how the first thing you said was why. How did you say it? Why do you need them to not do that? Like it's looking at yourself more. So like in my scenario, like my situation with a family member, and I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You're stressing out, And they're like, I love it. What do you mean? I'm like, it's so stressful,
Right,
But
right.
it's
See,
more about me than about them.
yeah, because you can never be inside someone's head. And
Hmm.
what feels horrible to you might feel joyous to them. And
Right.
it also depends on where they're starting. If the rest of their day is full of despair and depression, then it does feel better to be angry, to be excited, to be passionate, to be in disagreement. That's a better feeling place than loneliness and despair. And
Mhm.
and then from there, maybe they get to a slightly better feeling place. And then from
Mhm.
there, a slightly better feeling
I
place.
need you in my life, Lauren. I need you. We're
I am
signing
in your
up.
life. I am.
We're going to put the link for your sign up. Well, when you have it, this is so good. This is so good because I do feel like um, these. I really like your approach on owning. I'm trying to think how I would phrase it. Owning like yourself, owning who you are, and letting other people be who they are. I'm not saying it as eloquently as you, but in that, like I think there's this a lot of discussion around like the masculine and the feminine. Like, I don't mean like men and women. I mean more like people will categorize me as masculine. Like I need rules. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna set the goals, and we're gonna,
masculine energy, yes.
yeah. And then the more feminine energy, that people will categorize me as like lower percentage, lower percentage of the feminine. And so I'm curious in saying all that is, what are your thoughts on that? So there's the modalities of, oh, you got to get more into the feminine and let go of that masculine and let go of the drive and just really just become more into your feminine. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that as well.
Well, masculine energy is amazing. It's how we build things. It's how things get created. There wouldn't be cell phones. There wouldn't be technology without a masculine way of thinking and getting things done. Now, and so that's wonderful. But the departure from the feminine, where we've kind of let go of the idea of magic, the idea of, think about. Do you know who Claire Zammit is?
Mm-mm.
She is a really incredible teacher of the feminine power. And she compares it to masculine energy is like how you build a house. Feminine energy is like how you tend a garden. You sow you prepare the soil and you plant the seeds and you nurture and it's a soft and loving and gentle energy. And I really feel like we need both.
Mm-hmm.
That if you were completely and perfectly feminine, then you might not ever find a way to feed yourself or put a roof over your head or whatever. But if you are completely and totally masculine, then you miss out on the magic that is the feminine energy. So I believe there's a balance, a harmony, and it's kind of situational. It's kind of, sometimes the situation calls for a pragmatic step-by-step approach. Sometimes the situation calls for nurturing and allowing and loving.
It reminds me a little bit of the story that I tell all the time. So I have one child, I have a daughter. And when and I didn't grow up around children. So I felt like as a new mom, I was like, this is all new territory, right? And I'm a career driven, we're just going to call it right now for lack of better words, masculine. So we bring her to the doctors and, you do as when you have children, yada, yada. And let's say the question was about teething or I don't even know. And and always, the nurse would say to me, you'll know. I'm like, no, I won't know. Where's the rule book? Where's the checklist? Like that I can do. I will not know when to put her down for a nap or whatever it was, right? And then and I struggled so much with that. And then one time we brought her and she had, maybe been on an antibiotic or something. And they said, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to start giving a half a teaspoon, then you're going to go down to a quarter. And then on this day, and I'm like, that I can do. I'm like, I get it. There's a formula. And I really struggled with that so much because of this mentality that I didn't have. I have more of it now. I still am less than, much more masculine, but I did not have. I wasn't aware of it, or I don't even know, but I struggled so much with that messaging, like you'll know. And I was like,
instinct and intuition. And a lot of us in modern society have lost touch with our own instincts and intuition. And it's just a matter of getting back in touch and getting back in practice and giving yourself permission to stop and check in with your gut and go, okay, the world says that this is the way things go, but what does my gut say? What is my gut the best way to do this? And that might be a less mushy gushy girly whirly way for you to look at it and feel your way into that then.
Right. And you talk about that in the book, right? And you talk about like how society, I forget your exact words, but like you just said, it's like, we've been so programmed to kind of, and some of us have lost that intuition because we're so programmed in the way of the world and how things are run and process. And I know for me, process and so forth.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We're full of all of these limiting beliefs that this is the only type of career that we can have. This is the only type of income that someone like me can have. This is the only lifestyle that someone like me can. And oh no, I can't do that because I'm this. That there is no can't, there is no should, there is no have to. You get to choose whatever it is that you want, and there's no limits to how you can structure your life. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. Not even one
Mhm.
other person needs to.
Mhm. And I find that so exciting. Like that is what has been my journey these last just couple of years, right? Is because I was primed and ready. Whatever had, has was happening at that point, I was ready to embrace, like hearing those words 2 years ago. I was like, oh yes, totally got it. You know what I mean? Like totally was on board. It's like, yes, let's do this thing. And um, I think that I think, Lauren, that you have to be ready to receive that. Like for those conversations like we're having here about it's not my responsibility to convince Mary, Joe, whomever that you can do this. And I think I was ready. And I know for me personally, and I know you as well, reading your story, it comes from life experiences and things like that, right? Do you see other paths? Like, what do you see in your work with your clients, like other paths where people come to that realization?
The realization that they're free to live their life the way they want.
Mm,
Um, wow, that's a really good question. Um, a lot of times people have to really be kind of in a helpless, hopeless place, that a rock bottom of some kind. Their heart is broken. They're at their wits' end for whatever reason. And then they go in search of answers, and they stumble across a teacher like you, or like me, or like Abraham Hicks, or like all of the thousands and thousands of way showers and uplifters and we're becoming more and more every day, which is an awesome thing because there can't be too many light bringers.
right.
And you know, often in search of a relief of pain is
Mhm.
where people will arrive at a message that resonates with them. And if you can just get one small corner of your mind open to the possibility, then spirit can work with that. The universe can
Mhm.
work with that. And if you can just get yourself to have a little bit of faith, then things will show up to reinforce your faith. And then it's like a self fulfilling prophecy, and your faith begins to grow. And then
Mhm.
as you're taking these inspired steps and watching life unfold for you, then your confidence begins to grow. Then you're able to take bigger steps. Then you're able to have even greater faith, and it becomes an upward spiral.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I love that. Exactly. So I loved in the book how you said use, I forget where it is, but you said use this with your clients, your friends, have a book club, and I really think that you've done a remarkable job with this book in, like I said, pulling us into the story, and because that's how my brain works, like actual, like in the back of the book, people, when you get it, you got to get it. There's this, what do you call it? The study and practice guide, right? And then there's like step, I'm showing to Lauren, but she knows what's there.
Yeah.
And then the implementation and steps. What is your vision? So for me, for myself, I have clients, right, that I work with. Is your vision that I, do, we all get the book and we sit and work on the book together? How do you, and what is your big vision other than touching a million? So I wanted to tell you, count me one of your million if you're keeping count. um, how do you suggest folks utilize the books with their clients?
I say that, well, that's if I would just take them right through it. Just meet with them with each chapter and discuss each chapter. If you're doing like with the one-on-one with the
Mhm.
client, yeah, help them gather their tools, their journal, help them brainstorm ideas of how to wake up and take charge of their morning first thing, help them to a lot of the list that we make in this book, like the list of all the things that you love to do in your life that you no longer do. That's hard for a lot of people because they're that we've had our imaginations just completely squelched so that
Mhm.
we're not really able to think back. And so having if you were imagine that you were in a group of your closest friends in like a book club, and you're all going, oh, I remember I like to do this. Well, that sparked something that somebody else is like, oh yeah, and remember when we used to do this, and oh, I loved that. And then the creative juices start to flow and you start to remember, and then you start to remember what it feels like to use your imagination and to dream, and you come alive in that way. And the same thing with your bucket list, and the same thing with your talents and assets. Sometimes you can't see yourself and the gifts that you have, but your friends, the women in your book club, your other people around you can see that, and they're like, well, you know that you bake those amazing chocolate chip cookies and everybody always wants your baking, and
Mhm.
write down every skill that you have, because you never know how that skill can serve the world.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, I definitely will be taking the book to my clients. Thank you so much for that. One thing that I did want to hit upon also is I really liked how I'm like gushing over you, Lauren. Like
I know, I love it.
I love you and I love your book and I love the way you package things up and the way you talk because it really speaks to me. And I know it speaks to my audience. And one of the things that I've really loved how you approached it is going to that negative place. I'm going to repeat it here and then you take it from there. But how it resonated, how it hit me was, okay, we're going to take a moment in time and we're going to look at some of that negativity, whatever it is, some of the things that you don't like, some of the things that aren't going well for you. And we're going to acknowledge that because that is life and that is real, and then we're going to move on from that. And I really like that because for me, I think that that is really the foundation of how I've led my life. Not always, right? We always are growing, but I don't, things happen to us all, right? And we don't dwell. I should speak for myself. I don't dwell in that because that doesn't feel right for me. And I'll give you an example that we can kind of play with a little bit. So, and it's really timely. So this year is the 10th year anniversary of my husband. He's alive, healthy and alive. My husband's heart attack. So it ran in his family. He's really young. Just it is what it is. So we go to the ER, and my daughter is on my hip. She's little at that time. I don't know. And the doctor comes out and says, "Your husband's having a heart attack." And definitely I paused. The breath was taken from me a little bit. And then maybe it was like 2 minutes. And the doctor looked at me. I remember this obviously vividly. And he could see I was kind of questioning, like, are we gonna go to Boston? Are we, I was kind of like, what are we gonna do here? And he looked at me very calm and he said, time is of the essence. Like, you don't have time, lady, to be deciding if I'm the right doctor, if we're in the right place. Time is of the essence. And I just moved forward. And that's what we did. And we moved forward, we moved forward. And the nurses at the time in that room in the ER were constantly checking on me because they could not believe how I was handling it. They thought I was in shock. They were like, "Are you okay?" What? Because I just took each step, made the calls, took the steps, did what had to be done. And I know that I was handling that in that way because of other experiences that I've had in my life, like us all. So you've been through boot camp, right? You've been through other hard times and you know what you're capable of. You kind of, for me, go into action. And not as to say that there weren't hard times afterwards, he had to heal and all the things, but that storm passed. You know what I mean? So just like you said, what is that outcome? to you, that might be a bad outcome, but for somebody to get to the outcome, they kind of have to go through it. Right. And so I just think that it's so important to, yes, go through it. And I'll be the first person to say sometimes I'll avoid things for sure. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Sometimes I will avoid, but that I just feel really strongly. I hedge saying it because I feel like it's such a hot button for people, but not to dwell in it, not to dwell in it. Like, it is what it is. You go through it, do what you have to do, acknowledge it, whatever, and then we move on. So, all of that to say, I really liked how you approached it in the book, because it really spoke to me similarly as, let's acknowledge the things, the negative things, and then, okay, here they are, and then we're going to move. We're not going to stay there long. So in your words, so thank you for allowing me that time and space. So in your words, how would you say, what is your messaging around that?
So, are you talking about the chapter where we go, okay, we're going to take a look at our life and the things that we wish were different? Is
Mhm,
that the part that you mean?
mhm,
Yeah. Okay. So, when you know what you don't want, you get lots of clarity about what you do want, and that knowing what you don't like about the current situation helps you to chart your course for where it is that you do want to be. So that's why we take that minute to just do an assessment of, how is my health? How would I like my health to be better? And then we form a picture of what it will look like when it is better, and that's where we put our attention. Well, when I'm past all of this fill in the blank diagnosis, then I'm going to go to this place camping with my kids. I'm going to go climb this mountain with my lover. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be excited about these things. And your attention is there and on healing, instead of so many times when someone gets a diagnosis, suddenly that becomes the star of their show. It becomes everything that they talk about. They go in chat rooms and talk about it. They read research about it. That's the only thing that they ever talk about, and it becomes the winner, and they succumb to that disease. And whereas others will go, okay, this has happened. These are the steps we're going to take to deal with it. But
mhm,
then we're going to put our attention over here to all the things that are going right.
mhm,
Because no matter how bad the diagnosis is, there's still a billion other things that are going great that you can give your attention to instead. And even if, my goodness, if there's nothing left working in your body except your mind,
mhm,
there's still an amazing world around you that is full of amazing things to look at and think about and appreciate and
mhm,
enjoy. So letting yourself be attached to any certain condition, it takes away your power.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, and um, I think that what I'm hearing you say is very similar to how my husband will describe that event, in that, he'll say, "There's nothing I can do about it. I was having a heart attack. No matter how much I like freaked out about it or dwelled on it," or he was like, "Okay, I'm having a heart attack and we're gonna go have surgery. We're gonna fix it. Okay, and then I'll be back home. All right, let's do it." You know, as opposed to something different, as opposed to dwelling in it. I mean, that point he couldn't be looking up on the internet, but I get, you get the sentiment, like, and I think that we as humans can really dwell in the negative and stay there and see it and find it, as opposed to being like, yeah, this is negative. Having a heart attack. Not the best news, but these are the steps we're going to take. And okay, let's do those things. Let's do
yeah.
that.
And you don't know what state your marriage would be in right now if that hadn't happened. You don't know what gifts were in there. You don't know how much your love for each other might have been increased because you had solid evidence that life is short and can be taken away at any time.
Mm,
So and if you knew that your love and your marriage were so much stronger because of that heart attack, would you go back and not do it? Or would
mm,
you know?
right.
And a lot of times we don't know. But if we just always accept that a tsunami that wiped away a whole island did a lot of great good for someone somewhere in the grand scheme of things if you stand back far enough. And
Mhm.
then how can anything ever be bad? Now, it's not that, I lost my brother recently to cancer. And, I loved him dearly. And but I know that all that means is that he's not in this physical body anymore. Who he is still exists and will exist forever and for always. And the place where I can feel that feeling and his presence is in a happy and fun and joyous place, because
Mhm.
that's where he is now. He's not in a place of low vibration, which is, sadness and grief. And but would I want to not grieve for my brother? No, that would feel very shallow and not very rich and not,
Mhm.
not a very multifaceted kind of life. The pain and the struggle and the challenge of the hero's journey or the heroine's journey is
Mhm.
what makes it exciting and fun and varied. You know, would you go to a movie where nothing bad ever happened to anybody? No, it'd be boring.
Right? Not very entertaining. Oh, Lauren, well, thank you so much for your time. This has just been so great. We need more of you. I'm looking at the date here of January. So tell my audience how they can find you, what to expect. How can we just get more of Lauren?
Okay, so we are doing a drawing every month for a free autographed copy of the book and a free 30-minute coaching session. And I don't do very much one-on-one coaching anymore. When I do, it's very expensive. So that is a high value. And there's a reason for that, because I want clients who are very invested and
Mm,
very committed to their goal. And
right.
if they pay a lot of money for it, then they usually will be. So that's the reason for that. But a 30-minute coaching session, a free autographed copy of the book, just for getting on the email list. So go to laurengfoster.com and you'll see join our tribe. You'll see opportunities to sign up for free gifts and everything all over the website. And any way that you do it, we'll draw every month. The next one will be September 1st.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. This has been a pleasure. It was so nice seeing you. I
So
really
much.
enjoy spending time with you. I can't wait for January.
Thank you. Yes, I loved this too, Christine. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it. You can take a quick screenshot and share it on Facebook or Instagram. You can find me there at Christine Santos Coach. Until next time, continue to wonder boldly.